This is going to be about the Hamilton-Burr duel, the most famous duel in American history, made popular and more well known by Lin-Manuel Miranda's Hamilton musical, who went on Broadway in 2015 and just released a movie on Disney Plus on July 3rd, 2020. So let's get into it. Who was Alexander Hamilton? Well, he was this kid born in the Caribbean in the island of Nevis. Today it's called St. Kitts and Nevis, but back then it was just Nevis. And he was born either in 1755 or 1757. It's not really sure. He read a lot. I mean, I'm not gonna get into his character, but he was a really hardworking kid. He wrote a lot, read a lot. He was in charge of a trading charter, and then a hurricane destroyed his town when he was 17. They raised money to send him away from home to America, and arrived in 1773, just a poor immigrant. His mother had died, his father had left him, his cousin had hanged himself. Well, he joined the Continental Army because there were letters when he was 14 years old saying, "I wish there was a war." The kid was just crazy, even back then. Even when he was just a kid. Well, he wanted to be in a war and joined the American Revolution in 1776. So he was a really good soldier, and his talent and wit caught George Washington's attention and eventually became his aide-de-camp and rose through the ranks. Then he left and ended up becoming a lawyer, finishing his studies and then practicing law in New York. And in 1787, he was one of the New York delegates for the Constitutional Convention. Out of the 3 delegates, he was the only one who actually signed the Constitution. He led the fight to win ratification, even speaking for 6 hours at the Constitutional Convention. He was a strong advocate for a strong central government, way too close to a British system because he thought that was the best one there was. He got really criticized for it, but hey. And eventually, when George Washington became president, he became the first Secretary of the Treasury in 1789. He served for 6 years, then quit, and overall was the leader of the Federalist political party. So let's now look at the other side. Who was Aaron Burr? Well, he was born to a prestigious family in New Jersey in 1756, so he was either 1 year older or 1 year younger than Hamilton. His father was president of Princeton, and Burr himself, he was really clever, just like Hamilton. I don't know which one was more clever. They had different approaches to politics, so it's hard to say. He graduated from Princeton at age 17 and joined the Continental Army in 1775, 1 year before Hamilton. He was also an orphan. An orphan. So the similarities and parallels between Burr's life and Hamilton's life is just amazing. They were way too similar. It's just one had come from nothing, Hamilton, and the other one was kind of already established. He was already American. Burr. He was involved in a patriotic attack in Quebec and eventually served in the New York State Assembly in 1784. After that, he did also serve as a lawyer, quite close to where Hamilton did, as a state attorney, and in 1790 he became U.S. Senator for New York, eventually defeating in 1790 Hamilton's own father-in-law, Philip Schuyler. So that's the background of each person. So now I'm going to get into the background of the duel. There's so many things to get into here. I'm just going to get into a bit of detail. No, I'm not going to get too much into it because there's just a whole musical worth of stuff. Anyway, Hamilton famously hated Burr, and Burr hated Hamilton. It was a mutual feeling. Burr said that Hamilton was a dangerous opportunist. Hamilton didn't waste time. He saw an opportunity, he took it. Burr decided to just step back, analyze his options, and see what he could do. Completely different approaches. I mean, one ended up being vice president, the other one ended up being a secretary of the Treasury. So it's not like one was wrong, it's different. Burr joined the Democratic Republican Party, headed by Jefferson. Hamilton was the leader of the Federalist Party. So he was a bipartisan political idea, which was quite hated by Washington himself. Washington didn't want bipartisan or partisan, by that matter, fighting. It was against it. But hey, well, Hamilton, and I quote, said, "I feel it is a religious duty to oppose his career." So Hamilton, just from the get-go, from the beginning, just wanted to stop Burr. Like, whatever Burr did, Hamilton was there to say, "No, you're not gonna do that, because I'm gonna stop you." And he did this so many times. Like, no wonder it all finished in a duel. Obviously, it was just, Burr took a step forward, and Hamilton's like, "Nope." After the 1796 election, Burr wasn't really successful. He returned to the New York Assembly in 1797. By this point, Hamilton wasn't Treasury Secretary anymore, because this was in the John Adams presidency. He went against Jefferson, though, in 1800, the famous election of 1800. Burr released a letter written by Hamilton criticizing John Adams belonging to the Federalist Party. The letter was called "The Public Conduct and Character of John Adams, Esquire, President of the United States." But it's not like Hamilton liked Adams anyway. So it's not that Hamilton was. I mean, Hamilton obviously wrote this thing, which was quite lengthy, if I may say so. But it's not like Hamilton wanted John Adams to win. He just didn't want Jefferson to lose. He didn't want Jefferson to win. It's not like he wanted John Adams to lose. That's what I meant. But anyway, Jefferson, that hurt John Adams. Basically, it was obvious he wasn't going to win, even though he was the incumbent. So Jefferson and Burr tied in the election with 73 electoral votes each. So the vote went to the House of Representatives to be decided. But again, the vote was divided. Some Federalists did change sides and ended up going with Jefferson, only because Hamilton thought Jefferson was the lesser of two evils. Hamilton ended up endorsing Jefferson, not because he thought Jefferson was the best candidate, just because between Jefferson and Burr, Jefferson was the best option. It's like I said before, whatever Burr was planning on doing, Hamilton was right there to stop it. He just stopped anything Burr wanted to do. He just stopped it. So Burr became vice president because back then the second person in the election, the runner-up, was vice president, but he didn't do much under Jefferson. Jefferson didn't like Burr, so he changed it, and from 1804 onwards, it was the vice president and the president were on the same ticket. So you had to vote for the president and for the vice president. It's not like you only voted for president. Therefore, Burr wasn't vice president again in 1804, even though Jefferson was re-elected. So he didn't even run in 1804. Like, why? I don't want to. But he knew he wanted to be governor of New York. New York Federalists saw Burr and thought it was a wonderful opportunity because he was a talented politician who could do quite well for New York, right? Even though he was from New Jersey, but that's not really that important. So New York Federalists said, "Hey, Burr's a nice option." Hamilton's like, "Oh, you like Burr? Well, Burr is not that good." He criticized Burr so much. Hamilton, whenever he wrote something, he just went overboard. Way too much. Why? That the same question is in the musical. Like, why do you write like you're running out of time? Why do you need to write so much? The guy had some issues. Anyway, he managed to lose the Federalist nomination for Burr. But Burr's like, hey, I'm gonna run anyway. Joke's on you. As an independent, he still lost the election. Hamilton was constantly criticizing Burr, and Charles Cooper, a friend of Hamilton's, he wrote a letter to Philip Schuyler, Hamilton's father-in-law, saying that he opposed Burr's candidacy for the governor position. Burr sent a letter to Hamilton saying, hey, deny this, this is not true, go say something. No. Basically told him to retract it. But Hamilton's like, hey, it's not my words, it's Cooper's words. Don't hold me accountable. It wasn't me. It was Cooper. They constantly exchanged letters. And famously, Burr just sent a paragraph signed Your Obedient Servant, A. Burr. Hamilton replied with a full-on essay. Finishing, it was really detailed. So long. And by the end, Your Obedient Servant, A. Ham. Just went overboard. Burr was called by Hamilton a dangerous man. And Burr challenged Hamilton because he was just fed up. It's like, hey, you've been stopping me from moving forward ever since we met. Why do you keep doing this? Do you want to sort it out? Let's do an affair of honor. No, they don't always end in a duel. It's not the same thing. They did call it an interview prior to the duel, because duels were still illegal. Even though the musical states that it was legal in New Jersey, it wasn't. And what was really kind of funny is just the duel was in July 11th. There was the 4th of July dinner beforehand, right? On like a week before. Both Hamilton and Burr were at that dinner. So you can just imagine the tension, because they had already challenged each other to duel. So you can just imagine the tensions there. Like Hamilton and Burr hating each other, either trying to have a nice time before the duel, or just like looking at each other saying, I'm gonna kill you. That had to be, I don't know how that was, but I imagine I just found it so interesting, and it's like such drama. I mean, back then, they weren't gonna throw stuff at each other doing that, but it couldn't have been a nice time. It's just impossible for it to have been comfortable. Well, these affair of honors, like I said, they usually dealt with honorably. They spoke to each other. It was nice. It was just, they don't usually end in someone dead, or at least shot. But like Hamilton had been involved in like quite a few duels, not countless, but quite a few. Most resolved peacefully. Burr had also been involved in duels. So what happened was on July 11th, 1804, they met in Weehawken, New Jersey, on the same spot where Philip Hamilton, Hamilton's son, had been killed in 1801 in a duel defending Hamilton's honor after the Reynolds pamphlet was published, which was a whole fiasco. That's another video's worth of stuff. But yeah, it was, they met at 7 a.m. They both left at 5 a.m. or something. Burr got there at 5:30, they both left at 5:30. Burr got there at 6:30, and Hamilton got there half an hour later. They previously wrote letters to their loved ones. Hamilton wrote a letter to his friend who had taken him in right when he came to the United States, thanking him. He wrote to his Eliza, he wrote to his family. Burr stayed at a friend's house on his couch. I don't know what he wrote, but there was a procedure before, like, say your last goodbyes if you were killed, just in case. The seconds for each were William P. Van Ness for Burr and Nathaniel Pendleton for Hamilton. Pendleton was a long-time friend of Hamilton, right from the beginning of his arrival to America, they had fought alongside. So, yeah, only one doctor was present though. It was conventional for two doctors to be there. Only one was there, Hamilton's doctor. You can interpret it several ways. Burr was Either Burr's like, hey, I'm not gonna kill you anyway, and Hamilton knew it wasn't in Burr's political interest to kill him. So only one doctor was necessary because they were not gonna use it, right? On the other hand, Burr's like, I'm not gonna bring a doctor. I'm not the one who's gonna die. So you can interpret it several ways. We're never gonna know for sure, unless there's some hidden letter saying it that they haven't found yet. But I seriously doubt it. It was, I mean, in the musical it does say that Burr had a terrible shot. Even though it's not really true because they had both been soldiers in the Revolutionary War and they were both quite good. Burr had been seen, or at least had been noted to have been practicing his shooting skills prior to the duel. Hamilton, not that much. There's accounts saying that he hadn't even touched a gun since the American Revolution, so apparently Burr was more skilled than Hamilton, according to different accounts. But yeah, and Hamilton famously wore his glasses. Now the reason as to why he wore them was either to be more precise, although Hamilton had told his friends he was going to throw away his shot. He was going to aim not to the sky, but not to Burr, because it's useless. They shouldn't kill each other for this. They had to have a duel because to protect their honor, but no one should die. So maybe to wear his glasses was just to see the look on Burr's face. I don't know, but he famously wore them. Some say that Burr provided the pistols, like Burr himself said he provided them. Others said that it wasn't Burr. It was like Hamilton had a hair trigger place so he would fire first. These pistols were in fact used in a previous duel in 1799, in which was Burr against Hamilton's brother-in-law, and also been used in 1801 between Philip Hamilton and George Eke, sorry about that, in which Philip Hamilton was killed. So I don't know who brought the pistols, but someone brought them, obviously. Oops. Then there's the debate as to what happened with the shot. Hamilton's second, Nathaniel Pendleton, says that Hamilton deliberately threw away his shot, and Burr's second said that Hamilton had shot but just missed, which is understandable because Hamilton's second wanted to portray Hamilton as the hero. Burr's second wanted to portray Burr as the hero, right? Hamilton himself, when he was being rowed across the Hudson, he told the people who were there to make sure that the safety was placed. So he thought that he hadn't fired because, Burr had shot first. Which then people have gone there and have seen the tree where the duel took place with Burr. Had the branch was shot. So Hamilton had shot him. So what I think happened, and what other historians think happened, was that Hamilton had been raising the pistol, but then when Burr shot him, which was here in the stomach, which ended up lodged within his spine, he was like that, and he is taken back. He accidentally pressed the trigger, didn't realize, and shot. So he didn't intend to throw away his shot. No, he did. He did attempt to throw away his shot. He just didn't attempt to kill Burr. So I don't know. He didn't want to kill Burr, and he wasn't sure he had actually shot the pistol. But yeah, the tree branch just shows he did. Hamilton himself didn't know. It was quite interesting because he was the only one who was calm when the whole duel happened. Nathaniel Pendleton and Hamilton's group rode across the Hudson with Hamilton. Everyone was panicking. Everyone saw the wound. Everyone knew Hamilton was going to die. Hamilton himself was like, relax, it's not that bad. Like, he knew he was going to die. He declared himself dead 36 hours before he died. But it's like, why are you, it's, relax. I'm the one who should be panicking. I'm the one who's going to die. He was the only calm one out of everyone there. Burr, on the other hand, William P. Van Ness had shoved it away and hid his face because duels were illegal and he didn't want Burr's face to be seen and associated with the duel. Even though there were letters, who else was going to kill Alexander Hamilton? I mean, Jefferson was president, he was not going to risk it. Burr had been screwed over by Hamilton on countless occasions, but it was obviously Burr. I don't know why people. Burr was never tried for the murder. His political career just stopped. It died basically. But Burr died in 1836, 10 years after Jefferson and Adams. So that was an achievement. Although almost 20 years before Eliza did, which Hamilton apparently died next to Eliza. So the question is, did Burr go into the duel planning on murdering Hamilton? Did Hamilton go into a duel wanting to die because he had been going through a dark time? His political career, Hamilton's, had been completely shattered after all the whole Reynolds pamphlet fiasco. His son had been killed defending him. His wife, they had a son after the whole Philip duel, but it wasn't as good as it had been. He was basically sad. You should see the paintings. Hamilton's paintings, when he was still Secretary of the Treasury, they were all really fancy, he was really poised, and he was really, look at me, I'm Alexander Hamilton. There's this other painting in which he has white hair, his eyebrows are just messed up, and he just looks so hurt, which I can understand. So did he go into a duel knowing he was gonna die, and he wanted to die where his son had died? I don't know. Now, Burr, he was a clever man. He couldn't possibly think he was just gonna get away with this. He was never tried. He was tried for treason for another matter, which I'm not gonna get into it right now. But he was never tried for the murder. He got away. He didn't express regret. He did say later on that the world was wide enough for both Hamilton and me. That line from the musical is taken from an actual Burr quote. But he never said, oh, I shouldn't have killed Hamilton, why did I do this? No. He's like, yeah, we could have lived together. I don't know. Anyway, he just didn't regret it at all, and that's the sad part. But did he really want to kill Hamilton? Burr couldn't have been that stupid to kill him. No, it's just political suicide. So I just think he got carried away. He didn't intend to kill Hamilton. That's just how things happened. So yeah, that's pretty much it. The Hamilton-Burr duel is just that. And the musical paints it really well done. And then there's so many articles on it. And it's just, how could two men who were so clever throw their lives away like that? Hamilton literally got killed, which he could have easily avoided if he had just stepped back and looked at the situation and said, okay. The whole honor thing probably was in his head, and the whole legacy. Which, the musical does portray Hamilton as obsessed with the legacy, but if you look at his writings, he really was. And Burr is just, I hate Hamilton, and it just consumed his brain. He could have probably just sorted it out by talking, giving it a bit more time, instead of rushing into a duel. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah. So thank you for watching.